Hey guys! So tonight is
it's Wednesday,
which means Amazing Race, and
which
also
means it's the last episode before the final.
That is true, and it's also premiere of the challenge. So
Double agents.
We will be making that after this video.
They were airing at the same time, so we had to pick which one we would watch. We chose the Amazing Race.
But the challenge. But
Oh,
first, we have to talk about Amazing Race. So,
but first,
leading into the finale, I
so
knew
good.
that I wanted certain people to make it to the finals, and I feel pretty good about what happened.
I mean, listen, it gave me everything I needed in this episode.
It was a lot of drama, a lot of like
it didn't
oh shit
disappoint
moments of like, I swear to God, if this person goes home, like
I'm
gonna be
lose
upset.
my mind. But also, how clutch is that?
Yeah.
But okay, so
to start
down
off
to the final four.
Yeah.
It was at the beginning of this episode. It was D'Angelo and Gary, Hung and Chi, Will and James, and the Beards.
Riley and Madison.
Yeah.
And so for this episode, we were in the Philippines, and this was, I am assuming, a first. I believe that's what Phil said.
Yeah, I believe he said it was the first time they've done this.
It was like called a city sprint or something like that, where they
got to work as a team. So it was no roadblocks. There was no one person is gonna do this detour.
Both people have to do.
They
both
got to work
things
together the whole time.
Right. So
the pairs work together, not everybody.
Right. So the first thing that they had to do was they had to get into I guess kind of like a taxi. I feel like we say this every episode.
It's
like they had to get into their
taxi.
version of a taxi.
The past like 4 episodes.
It looked a little bit more like a bus maybe, but they had to basically get onto their own individual car, and they had to go to a man who's directing traffic and get a clue from him. But you had to make sure that you were close enough to the middle of the intersection that you could even get close to him. Otherwise, he's not going to leave like his spot. So
it's kind of tricky.
Yeah, so, and plus, like, the traffic in this specific city that they were in was, like, ruthless. Like, there was no chance of, like, if you wanted to turn back, it would be, like, a huge waste of your time.
Yeah.
So, Riley, Madison, and D'Angelo and Gary both got it on their first tries, but Hung and Chi and Will and James, on their way into the intersection, missed it. So
super close though.
Super close, but they had to go and do it again. So you turn back into traffic and try again the second time. Then to it looked like kind of like a seaside, like boardwalky type area, and they had to put on heels and do a 500-meter dash.
Yeah.
So
it was so funny to watch someone like Gary, who is like this huge football player, put on heels
try to run in heels.
It was prime.
So this is where Will and James went from last place to third place, because Hung and Chi started running before them, but Will and James passed them and got a little bit of a lead.
And then this is when
after that, then they got their next clue, and then they had to go to a Chinatown in the Philippines, where there was these people in like these dragon kind of parade, like
Chinese New Year
things.
Parade.
They were in costumes and like they looked like a lion, and each of the lions like could open up its mouth, and one of them had a clue in it, and they had to like go around feeling in the mouths and stuff.
Yeah, they were like attacking them. It was so funny.
They were like, "Is this it?" And the guy's like, "No."
And they're like, "Sorry for attacking you.
Sorry for like."
Just
but for this
one, Hung and Chi, they struggled on this
right
one.
So Hung and Chi, I believe, got their clue last or third.
No, they were last.
Yeah,
they were definitely last.
They also couldn't find the Chinatown originally. They were like they were near where the entrance was, but they weren't like, it wasn't clicking to them.
Yeah.
Riley and Madison finished first, but D'Angelo and Gary ended up finding the clue first, followed by Riley and Madison, Will and James.
When he said it was a sprint, let me tell you, it was like, it was changing, like, oh, he's in first, nope, they're in first.
They even for the first time, I believe, this season, they had like a little like board of like who was in what position, just because of how close it was.
Yeah.
Especially getting towards the end. But
yeah, it was exciting.
After they found the clue in the dragon, The next place they had to go to was they had to get like a horse carriage type thing, and they had to make feed
They had to make
for
the
horse.
food for the horse. So they had to find the vendors that had the different ingredients, and
So,
then
like,
they had to put it
seeds,
together and then like
milk.
mix it with their hand and then like feed it to the horse.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So basically D'Angelo and Gary got there first, but they were sort of missing one of the ingredients. They kept walking by the vendor, and so basically Riley and Madison and Will and James pushed ahead of them because they found it quicker and made it quicker, and so then they moved on to the next part for faster. But D'Angelo and Gary were pretty close behind, but they lost their first
clue in the Dragon's Mouth. They had to go to a it looked like kind of like a seaside, like boardwalky type area, and they had to put on heels and do a 500-meter dash.
Yeah.
So
it was so funny to watch someone like Gary, who is like this huge football player, put on
try
heels
to run
and
in heels.
It was prime.
So this is where Will and James went from last place to third place, because Hung and Chi started running before them, but Will and James passed them and got a little bit of a lead.
And then after
the feeding the horse part, came the longest part of the race.
Oh
where
my god! I feel like
this was one of the hardest
because it's an hour episode, but I feel like they were there for hours.
I feel like this one is like definitely one of the hardest ones that there's ever been
that they've done. Yeah.
They had a band playing on a stage, different music selections from like throughout the race. So like if they were in Kazakhstan, they ran by someone, or they were at a clue and like they heard music, those were the types of things being played on stage. So they were like, what the like, how am I supposed to...
It was hard. Like, it took 6 people putting their heads together, and they still couldn't figure it out. So,
but I will say, yet another instance of the teams reading the clue, getting straight into it, and then
not
rereading the clue.
The whole clue, really.
So the clue said, well, maybe we should say what they did first. Yeah. So what they were doing was they were getting all of the countries, because they had like little cases for like guitars, drums, piano, whatever, with flags on them, and they had to arrange them in a specific order. They thought the order was the order that they were playing it, when it was actually the order
of, like, when they did it in the race.
So just because they play Colombia first, that wouldn't be the first one if Trinidad was before it. Yeah. So that was...
Oh, it was just really rough to watch.
Yeah, because they're like, we know like, 2 and 4 are Colombia.
It was basically
Trinidad.
like Hung and Chi got to catch up and get there with all of them, but then it was still like it was anybody's game because everyone was struggling.
Yeah, I believe Riley and Madison and Will and James got there first, and they were already teaming up before Gary and D'Angelo got there, and they even asked like, "Do you guys want to like work together?"
And they were like, "No."
James was like, "Nope."
Sorry, no. Yeah, so like drama kind of came in a little bit.
And you were able to tell like what was going to happen, of Gary kind of understanding it and like just like being like okay, but D'Angelo
was bitter and like blindsided
because
by it.
Well, explain what you...
Because to me, I feel like Gary understood where there was times where maybe D'Angelo kind of rubbed some of the people the wrong way or whatever, but D'Angelo didn't see it. And so to the other people, they're like fed up and done with them. But like to D'Angelo, he's like, this is our crew. We work together. So then when they kind of got, in his mind, screwed over and they didn't want to work with him anymore,
he took it differently than Gary.
He took it way rougher, and Gary was kind of like, I can see the bigger picture, but you know, yeah. It was like hard to watch knowing that this person is sort of like ignorant to what's happening and feeling like it's so messed up, when in reality there's a lot of justifications behind it. He just doesn't know that because he didn't get it. So it was
I feel
drama filled.
I also feel like because Gary, I can remember doing more roadblocks or detours compared to D'Angelo. I feel like he kind of saw it more
because he was watching.
And he wasn't on the sidelines.
Yeah.
And I feel like D'Angelo got a little bit of the taste of like how they were in relation to everyone else during the tile making.
But that was the only time.
Where were they? India?
They were in India.
Yeah, like the tile making where Aparna was kind of laying into him.
She was like...
Because D'Angelo still didn't get it. He's like, it's a race. Like, I don't understand. But then when it happens to him,
he's like...
I don't know.
I had no fun. I wish I was never here. I don't care. I was like,
which
ooh,
you can feel that way if you want. Whatever. He was like, I could have paid to come here myself. I'm like,
I mean, you were in the NFL. I'm sure you could have.
Yeah.
So
but
you
Gary,
definitely still didn't need to win either because you didn't need that money. But
Gary was much more, humble.
Yeah.
I always liked D'Angelo and Gary. It's just
Yeah.
like when they started to kind of act more selfish, I was like, oh, okay. I'm okay if you guys go. But I will say, I will give credit to them. They were literally being like teamed up on for like the past like 3 episodes, and they've still like won
till now. Yeah,
like they've been able to fight against the teams working together to try to get them out
and still stay somehow.
I could have sworn they could have done it this episode.
Yeah, they just.
But they
I
took
think
the penalty.
Up. They took a 2-hour penalty,
which I didn't know was a thing that you could do.
Yeah, when they literally all the other teams had finished and were just like running.
That's
to find
basically
Phil.
Like, what's it called? Yielding you for like 4 different times because a yield is 30 minutes.
Yeah, or 20. I think it's 20.
Oh yeah,
30, whatever.
Like,
yeah, so
that's like.
I mean, if they had
yields.
tried that earlier, like you were saying, like maybe,
if they had,
but
yeah,
at that point, like it was so done. And they were close. They were only off by 1. But they didn't know that. But like at one point they were only off by 1. Like it was like, oh, just keep trying. It was crazy.
But Riley and Madison ended up finishing in first with Will and James right behind them and Hung and Chi after. And of course they had a little mini celebration because, the tight 3
like
from the initial 5 made it to final 3, which
it's my ideal final 3.
Right, it's
Anyone
our 3
can
favorite
win now.
teams.
I want to watch them battle it out. It's my 3 favorite. I also think it's easily the 3 strongest. I think this finale is going to be amazing. We're going back to America. They're going to Louisiana. They're going to New Orleans.
Yeah.
One of my favorite places. Oh, God, you gotta go. It's
amazing.
So great. So we're so excited. We'll be back next Wednesday
and
to see if my winner pick wins.
Yeah,
or
we should give our predictions.
Other, I think it's Will and James. I don't think my winner pick wins. My winner pick was Hung and Chi. I think it's Will and James.
I feel like it might be Will and James,
or an
but
upset
also
of a Riley and Madison.
So here's our thoughts.
Everyone deserves to win.
Right. Here's my thoughts. Riley and Madison have been,
super
I believe,
consistent.
the most consistent with being in first.
So.
Hung and Chi started out very well, but
strong.
Recently they've been more towards the bottom.
Yeah, they're still good, but yeah, they're more. They're
and I feel like because this is going to be another reset, it's really anyone's game because they've all gotten first before.
It's gonna be so good. I'm so excited.
And I will say, under pressure, they've all, because like Riley and Madison, their boat burned out when they were in. Was it India? Or maybe I'm thinking of another place. Their boat burned out.
Their boat burned out that one time.
Right. And
Will and James, their cars broke and they had to run.
Hung and Chi had switched detours before.
Multiple times.
Like,
I mean, they've all proven to be able to come back from like an upset in a way too. So it's like, I don't know. We'll see.
Right.
I think it's Will and James. And I think my winner pick is 3rd. I think Will and James win, and I think Riley and Madison come in 2nd. And I believe that's where I'm at now. That's what I think.
I'm believing the same thing, and I'm also hoping the same thing.
Yeah,
I mean, Hung and Chi, if they get 2nd, or even if they get 1st, like I'll still be happy. But
I'll be happy if anybody wins. They're all great. Love them all.
I am a little bit excited to see if they get like feisty with one another, and if they or if they're gonna continue to be because like if they're like nice to each other, like that'll be like a fun like finale. But also if they get like I'm doing this, like sorry, like we were friends but not anymore, like
not when it comes down to $1 million, baby. Not at the very end. It's a sprint.
So we will see.
Yeah, but in the
meantime,
you gotta like, comment, share, subscribe.